Hey there, welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, where we're expanding the natural family planning conversation. I'm your host, Ellen Holloway. All right, we are welcoming Father Mario to the podcast. Father Mario is a priest in the Diocese of Oakland, which is where I'm located. And I'm so excited to have Father Mario here. This is the first conversation that we've had with a priest on this podcast. Absolutely not going to be the last. I'm hoping to bring a lot of priests on here and have more conversations like this, but I am so excited to welcome you, Father Mario.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm really excited to be here. This is my first ever time being on a podcast.
Oh boy, this is exciting.
Yeah, you have the first priest on your podcast doing his very first podcast, so hopefully I don't make a mess of it for you.
That's okay. That's what editing is for, you know. Awesome. So today we are going to be talking about NFP ministry in a parish and kind of what the role of a priest is, what the role of laity and married couples are, married couples in particular from the laity, but other laity as well. So let's just start with, let's dream a little bit, Father Mario, and what would an ideal parish NFP ministry look like for you?
Yeah. I think dreaming is a good word for me right now, because I'm kind of in the dreaming stage of the parish that I'm in, which is in Alameda, St. Joseph Basilica. And so I've only been here since like January 2020. So we're like just starting to get the wheels spinning about creating this ministry for our couples, because it's so important. And so I think it has to really fit into the whole, life and ethos of the parish.
Yes.
It can't just be one issue that's segregated to like marriage prep only. And we'll talk about that more. Like the body, NFP is really specific to certain people, certain groups, married couples, but it's not just about them, because it has to do with the body. We all can learn something from it and benefit from it. So we're all part of the body of Christ. So if we know what certain people are called to do and how their bodies work and function and what they show forth to us in a theological, spiritual, sacramental sort of way, it helps everybody. But I think it kind of comes under this umbrella, and sometimes we see it in the church, like there's a division what happens with like life ministries and like respect life ministry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll see people who like really want to serve the poor, and you see people who are really like pro-life, like pregnancy, anti-abortion, and they oftentimes don't really come together.
Right. But it is one very large issue. I mean, all of these things fall under this respecting life and respecting our bodies, and respecting God's design for that. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So the parish needs to have a really like truly pro-life ministry where all of these things can come together. And that has to do, what is like the foundation for that is just understanding the dignity, the supreme dignity, the infinite dignity of the human person. And so NFP fits into that. If you're looking at the dignity of the poor person who we're serving on the street and the dignity of the unborn child, we also look at the dignity of the couple and their bodies. And I think that's kind of an in for people, especially in our day and age where we're really conscious about our bodies and what we put into our bodies, and especially women. I don't think a lot of them understand, or husbands too, just how harmful some of the artificial contraception is.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness. And we've definitely touched on that quite a few times in this podcast in previous episodes, of just the negative impact, particularly of hormonal methods of birth control that just really attack the natural systems of the female body that are very, very healthy. And we don't want to do that. That's just, I mean, just from a health perspective, we don't want to do that. But then also from a theological perspective, we do not want to shut down these natural processes that God designed for us. And so, yeah, NFP allows us to really work within that design and appreciate it as well.
Yeah. So I think it fits into, the kind of the first step is, if we're dreaming, right, is to parish needs to be truly pro-life, which is loving our neighbor and our enemy, seeing their dignity as being made in the image and likeness of God. So that's the ethos of the parish, the mentality of being that everything that we do is truly pro-life, from loving the person on the street, to the child in the womb, to the person on their deathbed, to the couple that is procreating. So it fits into that. There shouldn't be factions.
Yes.
So everybody should understand, firstly, that NFP is about loving and valuing the dignity of sex and the body and the person. Mm-hmm. And so I think then we can kind of go on to more specifics, making it available in the parish. And one of the refrains that I've heard a lot, that I've said before myself when I first started learning about, the body and its theology, and we can go into, just remove the theology really about NFP. It's so good scientifically, right? We just talked about how good it is for the body.
Right.
But the refrain you hear a lot, I've heard it, I've said it, I'm sure you've heard it a lot, is, why didn't I learn this earlier?
Oh my gosh. It's like if I had $1 for every time someone said that as an instructor teaching people and in class, like, why didn't I know about this early? I would not need to work. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's something that priests don't really know, or aren't really aware of, that how it benefits people, and that they really maybe they'll get some pushback at first. I've heard priests say that we don't talk about NFP in this parish. we serve the poor and we go out and do social justice, but we don't talk about NFP, because I think they just haven't had that little boost, that little nudge in the right direction, where people have said, why didn't I learn this before? Mm-hmm. Sure, it's challenging, and it goes against a lot of what the culture tells us, and maybe it makes life, like I said, it's challenging. There's more like just stuff you have to know and keep track of.
Right.
It's not the easy way out, but they come back to you and say, why didn't I learn this? So making it available is the next step if we're dreaming.
Right.
And making it available as much as we can. And I think something that's so valuable is just witness talks. So we're going to do one in our parish. This is NFP Awareness Week coming up.
Yep. Yeah, we are recording this days before NFP Awareness Week.
Yeah, July 25th, the anniversary of Pope Paul VI encyclical Humanae Vitae, which was very controversial and still is. So we're going to have a couple here who is an NFP practicing couple just give a witness talk.
Beautiful.
And we're going to announce that. I wrote a bulletin letter about it, and I have it. We sent out a digital version yesterday, and nobody has said anything about it yet, but we'll see on Sunday what the reaction is. That's
always kind of the
great for me.
That's kind of the wait and see moment. It's like, well, when you bring up NFP in the parish, maybe it's in the bulletin or it's in the homily or something like that. It's kind of like, okay, now we just need to, what's the reaction going to be?
So just having the talk, because, it's pretty non-confrontational. They just are listening to another couple speak and share their experience, and you can't really refute that.
Mm-hmm.
Couple says this has been we have seen positive things come about by using this. You can't refute that. And so witness talks are, our faith is built on witness talks, right? That's what the Greek word martyr means, is just being a witness. So, we have the formal proclamation and priests and people teaching, but when it comes down to brass tacks, it's the people you encounter who really sometimes just have the biggest impact. So just seeing a couple that's like you, same struggles as you, going through the same things, they're going to be able to reach more people than I can. I mean, I can plant the seed and I can go so far, but having the witness talk. So I would love to do that. And this is the second one we've done. We did the first one with this couple, I think in February. And it was like to bring in, I had several couples in marriage prep at that time. And, making it a requirement for our parish is that you have to at least go to the witness talk. Other dioceses, they do the whole program. You have to learn the program. We're not quite there yet, so that would be great for our diocese. But just hearing the witness talk. So we were saying, maybe monthly, but I don't think we have enough interest just yet. We need to boost it up a little bit more. But this is the second one, and so we'll start with that, and then you start to see the interest and the word spreads. But this is helpful for a couple, right? Have you seen that? I mean,
yeah. Well, and I think a lot of what you're speaking to is just like discipleship happens one-on-one. It doesn't happen just listening to a talk in a huge, auditorium or something like that, or listening to one homily at one mass. It happens when you journey with someone. And so what those of us who are married and practicing NFP can do, the best thing that we can do, and I've said this on the podcast before, this is not going to be news, is we can talk about NFP. That we can talk about our experience. We can talk about the good and the bad. We do not need to sugarcoat NFP. That's not necessary. And in fact, I think a lot of times that can be very harmful. If we just play up all these good things about it, and then a couple starts using NFP and they're like, wait a second, this is really hard. Nobody told me it was going to be really hard. Okay. Everybody, if you're listening right now, you're not using NFP yet, it's going to be really hard. It will be, but there are also going to be some incredible fruits that come from it to increase marital intimacy, communication, and appreciation of God's design of our body, among many, many other things. That's just my little list of things that are good about NFP.
And so, like you said, Ellen, like just talking about it. And I think one thing that couples shouldn't be afraid of is to go to their priest and say, and ask for it, but especially if they have experience in it, to offer that to him, because a lot of the time, it's like, okay, I know, we say like, I know NFP is what the church wants, but like, I don't know how to use NFP. And I don't know the couples in the parish. And I'm sure are couples in every parish in our diocese who use NFP. Just be brave and go to the priest and say, I can give a witness talk, and see where that leads. So
what a great, okay, let's just pause there and repeat that. So if you're listening right now, that's such a great thing that you can do, is just go to your pastor. Or if you have multiple priests, maybe the one who's like in charge of the marriage ministry area or something like that, and say, hey, this is something I can provide, and see where it goes. Because I think, and Father Mario, you're going to be able to speak to this more because I'm obviously not a priest, but I think a lot of times our priests just don't even know where to start with NFP. And they're not really sure if they could bring it up in a homily because they don't have any personal experience with it. And they don't know if they could do a talk on it because, again, they don't have any personal experience with it. And so someone coming to them and saying, look, I have personal experience with this, I would like to share this. That might get them to be like, oh, yay. Okay, great. Let's do some NFP stuff.
Yeah. Because it's not that they don't want to, it's just that they, don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
So, and that's with like everything. People will come to us, and my motto or my MO as a administrator now is, if you come to me and ask me to do something, and you say, Father, can we do this? I'm going to say, like, sure, but you do it. So, like, I can do certain things, that's my task, that's my mission, is to preach, to celebrate sacraments, to visit people. But if you want to start some kind of group or do some kind of prayer novena, take the lead, take the initiative. And some priests are more willing to take their hands off of, to not micromanage. But yeah, I would just say it's not that they don't want to, it's just that they just need the resource. And so offering that, I think, is would be a big step forward. Say, I
Yeah.
can do this for you. I can do this for you, Father.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, and we all know this, our priests are so busy. You guys have a huge job running parishes and celebrating so many masses over a weekend and so many sacraments outside of those masses, beyond just the Eucharist. And so we all know that. We all know our priests are super busy. So what can we do as laity to support this ministry? We can do what we can do.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, at the beginning, we were kind of talking about like integration of NFP ministry in a parish. So I want to go back and talk a little bit more about like integrating NFP and where it's talked about in parish ministry. Right now, I think pretty much across the board, we know NFP is talked about in marriage prep. But that's pretty much it in a lot of cases, in most cases. So where else, I guess, here's my question, where else should we talk about NFP?
Yeah. Well, whenever a couple comes in and we start the process of marriage prep, I always tell them kind of, with a kind of like a heavy heart, because I say, you guys, depending on how far out their wedding is, sometimes it's like a couple months away, and it's like you kind of have tied my hands. But if it's even like a year away, I say, okay, you guys have this much time for preparation. You have like 1 year. My preparation to be a priest was 7 years in the seminary, and you guys get like a few months, like 8 months, maybe most sometimes. So it's like totally unfair to them. So that preparation, like they need to, before, when they come and start the formal marriage prep process, the dream would be that they've been preparing for marriage prep since they were children, right? And that starts in the home, that starts in the family, that's modeled by their parents, that they show them what solid marriages are. But then the church can help during faith formation and, providing this throughout faith formation, because as we said in the beginning, it's your body.
Right.
So no, there's no time when you shouldn't be learning about your body and how God made your body. And so starting that very early, and we can kind of backtrack, probably the next thing before marriage is like maybe a young adult group, and it can always be brought up there.
Yeah.
Because, that's, a lot of them are maybe sexually active, or at least actively discerning marriage. And you just go back a little further. I mean, confirmation for sure. That's because that's one of the most tumultuous times in a person's life.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Not only are they exposed to things, images of the body and what the body should be, but in high school and end of middle school, now their bodies are changing drastically. So being able to talk to them in their faith formation about what their body is doing, and again, what the purpose of these changes are for. And I think all of this, talking to minors, has to be in conjunction with their parents. And so the parents are the primary educators. That's what we say. And when whenever we're getting them signed up for faith formation, we say, you guys are the primary educators. We're here to serve you. So getting the parents on board and giving them the same talk, really,
Yeah.
the same lesson. This is what your kids are getting during this, however many weeks of the body portion of sacramental prep. You're going to get it too. And I think what you see is the parents come back, and the parents, they say this for like every topic. I never knew that. I'm learning so much, even if it's like the Eucharist is like Jesus' body and blood. They're like, I never knew that.
There's so much that all of us can learn about our faith, like at any time. But yes, I mean, I've personally served in like confirmation prep ministry, and we do these parent sessions, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that, this about the sacrament of confirmation, even things kind of more basic like that. And it's like, wow, we have some work to do as a church to just better educate our members.
So I was just looking at some stuff that some of the like Catholic publishing houses are putting forward, and I don't know if I can like name drop them.
Go for it.
Ascension Press has one that's called You, and that's like a 10-part series. And I think, at least for me, like learning about it in the seminary was like, and like the amount of thought and like just intentionality and just how encompassing of so much like John Paul II put into his writing. It was like, that was like one of the most important classes I took in the 7 years of seminary, because it weaves in so much. It weaves in scripture. It weaves in sacraments. It weaves in Trinity. It weaves in Eucharist, because it all has to do with the dignity of the human person and love. So, having that in those courses is going to be vital. It's going to be really important, but it should be an RCIA.
Absolutely.
Right. If people coming into the church need to know about this, and there you get people who have been in, aren't married in the church. So now they have to go through marriage prep for convalidation or what have you. They've been in divorces. They've been divorced and remarried, or they've had just really painful marriages or painful experiences. So offering this to them as, healing way forward is important. You could even weave it into like baptism prep. Absolutely. Yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere. You've had this beautiful child, and, do you know about NFP and how wonderful it is? And then I even knew a pastor who like weaved it into like quinceañera prep.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I love that.
You're going to like celebrate this day of like becoming a woman, those air quotes.
Sure.
Then you get a little, like, hopefully it would be a recap of the theology of the body and NFP, and and that is all of this is the marriage prep, right? So you come to the priest to fill out your paperwork. You've already had years and years of understanding what your body is made for, and how beautiful the marital act is, and training and in safeguarding it and protecting it. And so, yeah, we're playing catch up.
Yeah,
we can do it.
Absolutely. Well, and there are such beautiful points within kind of the sacramental life of a person kind of going through the church, that it's kind of easy to insert into those points, right? We're seeing people when they're preparing for confirmation, we can insert it there. We're seeing people when they're, there are age appropriate ways to talk about the body and theology of the body in First Communion preparation. And, and again, so it's just really building on all of that. And yeah, we're seeing parents when they come and bring their, infant in for baptism, we can insert it in there. And there's just, yes, we need to play catch up, but we kind of have a great setup.
Yeah. I mean, the sacraments they're all bodily. They're all, they all use, there's always like an anointing, pouring water on the body. So it's like, it's for confirmation. It's like, you are a temple of the Holy Spirit, or your child in baptism is becoming a temple of the Holy Spirit. Don't put a carcinogen in your body that is equal to cigarette.
Exactly.
Your body is a temple, don't give it away to somebody who's going to use it. But because in baptism, you are made for divine love, not for, pleasure, not to be used, but you're made to be loved. So yeah, there's all these ins.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I love that. And I think something you kind of said, and I just want to reiterate, is that yes, there are these like great places to kind of insert them into, other sacraments that we're seeing people come to the church for, but that still is marriage preparation. It's still, it's like extending marriage preparation out, to infancy, which is ideally what marriage preparation is, right? You had said like, we should be, preparing for marriage as we're like seeing our parents' marriage, and just throughout our lives as we're if that is the vocation we're called to, like seeing these other couples in our parish, and oh yes, I want my marriage to emulate that. I just love that. I love that concept, just like extending marriage prep out to our whole lives before we get married. That's beautiful.
What you said, Ellen, it's a vocation. Marriage is a vocation. So it's not like the vocation is decided for you when you're old enough, after like you've had your life experience, or it's definitely not something you choose, but it's something God has planned for you. So if marriage is your vocation, then yeah, the training starts from the day you're born, the day you're conceived. So yeah, and I mean the same goes for any of our vocations, and our shared vocation is to love. Is beatitude. So yeah, we need to start training our people very early on, the unique expressions of love.
Yes,
how we're called to love. I use my body differently than a married couple, but it's the same vocation. But yeah, we need to be teaching them these things, really stressing vocation. So.
Absolutely. Right. And that just really could much better be integrated into all of our faith formation as, kids, and then as young adults as well. So I want to touch on, before we finish up, so that's a great vision for, before marriage and introduction to NFP, and NFP ministry after marriage. That's something we also don't see at all. And, we've said, even on this episode, but in the podcast, in general, like NFP is hard. It can be very, very difficult. And so something, I personally would like to see a lot more is support for couples using NFP. And, maybe that's a monthly, marriage date night, married talk, or like a dinner at the parish. I know a lot of parishes do things like that. They do like a monthly date night for married couples. Maybe it looks like something else. Maybe it's a specific NFP support group. Father Mario, I don't know if you have other ideas for support beyond, once they're married and hopefully using NFP, what can we do to better support that area as well?
No, I think those things are like, that's exactly what needs to happen. And before I got here to St. Joe's, that's what they were doing. They had something called date night.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's exactly what they had. And I think they provided babysitting, and it was a time to, I don't know if it was a potluck or it was some kind of sponsored meal, but yeah, it was a time for the couples to get together and have one-on-one time, but also have some kind of formal, lesson on some kind of aspect of the faith, specifically their marriage, on marriage,
Yeah.
and how to do that. And yeah, I think again, we're playing catch up. It's something, post sacramental formation is something that we have not really grasped as a church. We're great at sacramentalizing our youth, and the ongoing formation is really where we need to kind of step our game up.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just making those things available. And again, it comes down to this partnership between the priest and his parishioners. People stepping forward to say, yeah, let's host this, let's get this together, so that we can provide this. And I think there should be a lot of impetus for priests to do that, to help their couples, because it helps our priesthood. Learning about these things. We never have to use NFP ourselves as priests, but seeing the witness again of faithful spouses, of loving biological fathers, helps us to be better spiritual fathers. Right, the two vocations very much parallel each other.
Absolutely.
And that's one part of my of marriage prep that I love explaining to the couple, is that they are the priests of their little home, their domestic church, where they're called to sanctify each other, like a priest sanctifies things in the sacraments and in the prayer life of the church. They're called to offer their spiritual sacrifices for one another. They're the priests of their home, their little church. But they show priests how to be, fathers and spouses. So offering these things, and that's because once you celebrate, the sacrament of your vocation, whether it's matrimony or ordination, doesn't stop. There's always ongoing formation. There's always this process of becoming, and we should really delight in that journey of becoming with other people.
Awesome. So before we close, I don't want this conversation to go on too long. I want to bring up a little bit of, you brought up a great analogy to me before we were recording about kind of the role of the priest in this ministry, because as you mentioned, as a priest, you have no use for NFP. Like you're never going to need to learn a method. And so, yeah, I want you to bring up that awesome analogy.
Yeah, I think I heard it myself from a video somewhere. A lot of times when this topic comes up, a lot of people doubt or call into question the priest's authority to speak about sex.
Right.
Because he's celibate. And yet, as I said, there is a connection between priesthood and married life. We're both following Jesus Christ, who was the high priest, but also the spouse of the church. Mm-hmm. We're all following him. So there's this connection. And so the analogy is that, even though I've never been married, I'm not going to be married. The analogy is like, there are many coaches who have never played the sport professionally, and yet they are the coach, right? Because maybe their body has not been through the competition, but they know what it takes to succeed at a high level. So I really enjoy and delight in walking with married couples and expounding on those points of getting them to see that they're just following Jesus, the bridegroom, who is the priest. And I know a little bit about him. Right?
Just a little bit.
I tell them, always hang up the crucifix in your home, because that is the model that's the model of my vocation, and that is the model of theirs. Yes. Is him on the cross. So I've never played in the game before, but I'll coach you through it. But at the same time, the priest needs his assistant coaches, his co-coaches, which is the laity, is the people who can encourage them and say, I've been through the struggle, right? I've been on the cross of NFP. I've carried it, and I know I know what comes. I know the joy that it brings. So there's definitely this partnership that if we want NFP to be successful in the diocese and in the church, then these two groups, the clergy and the laity, really need to partner up to draw out the full beauty of this lifestyle.
Absolutely. Oh, I think that's just like such a great place to end, is just just leave us on that beautiful note. Father Mario, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and insight into this. I hope that this conversation just brings a lot of people who are listening that one step closer to bringing NFP ministry more into their parish. Again, what you can do, I think Father Mario had such a great idea, is just go to your pastor and say, hey, I practice NFP. Can I witness to, the parish on it? Can I do a talk? Can I do a webinar, even if you're still not in person yet? Or can I do a talk one night or host a date night for married couples or something along those lines? Those are all such beautiful ideas. Well, thank you so much, Father Mario.
You're very welcome, Ellen.
Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Charting Toward Intimacy. And if you ever have any questions or comments about an episode, feel free to reach out to me either via email or on Instagram. And links to those are in the show notes. Until next time.